So this is really spicy then.
24 points to go. Verstappen can actually do that.
From a McLaren point of view, this is a disaster.
We've got a proper three-way title fight.
Hello and welcome to The Inside Track, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of Formula One through our exclusive access to Red Bull Racing. I'm Rick Edwards, journalist, broadcaster, Formula One fan.
And I'm sports journalist Matt Majendie.
On today's show, you'll like this, I think. What Verstappen's in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah, I do like that. Yeah,
I thought you would. Max still mathematically in with a chance of winning the championship. We are waiting currently. So Matt is in Vegas. I am technically on holiday, and we are both refreshing. I'm refreshing my screen. I guess you're just I don't know how you're monitoring this, but we are waiting for a ruling about a possible disqualification for both McLaren drivers, Norris and Piastri, something to do with a skid, but we'll get into more detail later. If they get disqualified, that would mean that Lando was just 24 points ahead of both Piastri and Verstappen going into the final two races. So as soon as we hear anything, you will hear. We're also going to hear from Red Bull strategist Hannah Schmitz, and we'll discuss Kimi Antonelli's, I think, quite questionable 5-second penalty. And there's another bit of business I wanted to add, which is the possibility of Christian Horner to Aston Martin. I know you have some views on that, Matt. As always, if you want to watch this episode or get the latest video content from Race Day, subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Inside Track podcast. So you're in Vegas. You're in the NGM Grand. Your curtains are absolutely rank. Is the first thing to say.
This is my hostage video.
Blink
basically.
Twice.
Yeah, it is. MGM Grand, it couldn't be less grand, I think, would be a descriptive. I'm not a super fan of Vegas.
No.
It's just not a place. Not me and Vegas don't see eye to eye.
Not happy bedfellows, really. How was the race from your point of view?
I thought it was a really good first lap.
And then,
I guess that's the best thing I can say for the rest.
Yeah.
And then
fairly dull.
I was trying to work out if it was the most boring race of the season or not. I'm sure there are other contenders, but in that moment watching it, when that first lap happened, I was like, oh my God. And qualifying had been so brilliant, all of that. And then it was just a procession. When the director's spending 5 solid minutes on the battle between 8th, 9th and 10th, that it's not a classic, but there we go.
Although it was interesting how Hamilton managed to claw his way back up the field. That's why the director was focusing on that.
Well, that's fair enough. You say clawback. He had an incredible start.
Yes,
and he watch it back again. He just pierces through the mayhem, and then after that, he doesn't do anything. He can't really He got past a car or two after that point, and was sort of frustrated by basically being stuck in P10. But yeah,
in terms of the race at the front, there was a moment, I think, where Lando got past George Russell, and there was a bit of chat on the radio. I don't know if you would have heard this, where effectively Lando was saying, do I go for it? Do I try and hunt Max down, or do I just think, okay, just play it safe? And they said, go and get Max. And for a little bit, it looked like we might have a proper race at the front, and then it just sort of fizzled out. So I did think there was a kind of precursor to excitement, if you like.
There was just that, like a ray of hope.
Yes,
but it was like only for a couple of laps, I think, as far as I remember.
Yeah,
it was very, very brief, and then that was quickly extinguished. Yeah.
So the first lap though was nuts, particularly the first corner. I just watched the first corner back and thought, I don't know what Lando Norris is playing at there. It's such amateur hour driving.
But what's he doing? I was chatting to people before the race going, okay, I was thinking within Red Bull, I was like, you guys got a great shot for the win because Lando knows what Max is going to do. Max is going to be aggressive. So Lando's got a solid lead. Surely he's conservative. Worst case scenario goes P2. But he nearly drives into him.
Yeah.
I was chatting to someone and they were going to look back at the footage, but they think him and Max actually slightly touched despite not any damage being done. But I don't know why he was doing that, because the risk to him of going out of the race, it was a bizarre move. And maybe it's just I'm not a racer and your natural instinct is to go for the win. But it was overly aggressive, I thought.
Yeah.
And he admitted himself. He dropped an F-bomb on live TV to the world with all the kids watching about how he messed up, basically. It was a hands up. Probably shouldn't have done it, but got away with it without too much damage anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to credit Lando. Every time he's made a mistake this season, he's always come out and said, "Yeah, I messed up." He never really tries to make excuses.
Yeah, I like that. It was like,
Yeah, me too.
and because it sort of ends the discussion, it ends the sort of heat that you get for it. Yeah, I just made a mistake. Learn from it, move on, which is quite refreshing because I don't think enough sportsmen and women necessarily do that.
And then from Verstappen's point of view, once Lando has done what he's done at that first corner, it's a complete gift to him. And then he just sort of romps away with it.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because there was a great unknown going into this race because of how qualifying was in the wet. They hadn't had the longer runs in FP2 that had got disrupted. So no one quite knew what the tyres were going to do. This is a bit of a weird race. It's quite cold. You get a lot of hot graining and the tyres behaving like that, but they didn't know what was going to happen in the cold, whether there'd be an issue. So for that first half of the race on the medium tyre, I think there was a level of concern at Red Bull that perhaps there would be an issue there. So while it looked like a walk in the park,
it could not have been.
Wasn't necessarily going to be. But he had the least issue on tyre wear of anyone. On that medium, absolutely no problem. And as you saw, he went to the midway point of the race. And I was chatting to Steve Knowles afterwards, and I said, how long could he have gone on that set of hard tyres? He said he felt he could have done the whole race again.
Wow.
And the tyres would still be okay. You know, he just wasn't having any issue at all. And that was odd because Russell was struggling, Norris was struggling. Everyone seemed to be have different. You know, they were being told by their race engineers, "Can you lift off in turns 6 and 7 and whatever else?" And Max didn't have that at all.
Because Mercedes have normally done pretty well with their tyres here, haven't they?
I really thought they would be. I thought it would be a proper three-way battle. George probably could have been closer to them in qualifying. That it'd be George, Lando, and Max, but it didn't materialise. I don't know. I think this race is a bit earlier than last year's, and it was a bit milder, perhaps. I don't know if that made a difference. I'm not despite the nickname, the Tyre Whisperer. I'm not an expert in this field necessarily. So it was odd they didn't quite that threat didn't materialise. Although it looked like it at the start, didn't it? George was within DRS range initially, and then Max was able to pull away, and George complained. I mean, he was having some problems with his steering in particular.
Just on qualifying, Lando being that much quicker in the wet than Max was pretty extraordinary, I thought.
So what was curious about that is actually when they were on the full wets, Lando was struggling for pace, but as the track dried a little and they were onto the intermediates, he suddenly came alive. So actually his pace on the full wets wasn't so great. But I really thought he was dead and buried and out of that. And then suddenly the intermediates came on and his car kind of came to life and he was electrically quick. It was very impressive.
Good in the damp is what we're saying. Good in the slightly damp.
Good in the damp.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Get that on a T-shirt. But they say the curiosity of Vegas, even when a few spots of rain came down, it made it so slippy. And it perplexed quite a lot of the drivers and engineers, which I found fascinating. You know, even a little bit of rain, and there was almost a threat. I think there was a 20% chance, possibly, of some coming down, which would have spiced up the racing. But yeah, it's a bizarre, very slippery circuit. It appears, even a few drops of rain.
So now, obviously, we don't quite know where this is going to leave the standings in the Drivers' Championship because we're still waiting on this decision about a possible disqualification for the McLarens. But the fact is that if there is no disqualification, Max is still just about in with a chance. And that means there is more pressure on Lando in these last two races.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? And if he's in with a better chance, if there is that DQ, if he's in with a better chance, then it's even more pressure. You know, suddenly, if it comes to that 24 points, it's suddenly one mess up at the start of a race and it is totally flipped, and that's great. Isn't that what we all want, the theatre of it? And you know, it seems if it's the points as it stands now, it seems very hard for Max to pull it off. And yet not impossible, because we've seen him do impossible things. And that's what's so great, that this one individual is keeping this championship alive in a totally different way, rather than just the two McLarens against each other. I love it.
Let's just do our routine sort of sad assessment of Yuki's race. Poor again.
don't think I've got anything positive to say about that
Come
race.
on, you have to open up with your defence of him. That's how this works.
Well, they apologised for making errors for his qualifying, so I guess that put him in a difficult position. So that
Mm.
was a mea culpa from Laurent. He said they messed up, but in the race, they tried this strategy of going in early and letting him run, but he just didn't have the pace. Antonelli did a not dissimilar thing of coming in early, and his pace was nearly half a second quicker, I think, than Yuki, and that tells it all. So. But interestingly, on the driver thing, I don't think Yuki is dead and buried necessarily.
Do
They've
you
said
not?
that the
Mm.
team have said that I chatted to Laurent this morning. The decision's definitely going to be made after Qatar. So there's official. And I said, well, you must know what it is. And he said, 90%, which is a sort of curious answer. Um, it would seem absolutely clear that Isaac Hadjar alongside Verstappen, I think Arvid Lindblad coming into Racing Bulls, and it's a straight fight out between Lawson and Tsunoda. And I found myself this weekend reading into the body language. Oh, does Liam look happier? Does Yuki look happier? Sort of trying to work out which one. And I have the sort of sense that it's leaning a bit more towards Yuki, which I don't know whether that's fair or not, whether there's politics, whether there's sponsorship, whether there's money behind it, whatever it is. But yeah, I don't know the answer, despite attempts and Laurent very much laughing off my attempts to try and find out the answer. But yeah, we've got a week to find out, and then we'll know.
But presumably the team were very, very happy with how everything went this weekend.
Yes, because there was engineers don't like not knowing, and so many engineers here, 15, 20 engineers, whatever, in the team at the track, and they had no idea how this was going to play out because of the uncertainty around the tyres and the fact it played out as perfectly as it did. I mean, it was faultless. Verstappen made it look faultless. The strategy was perfect. The tyres, the way the car worked, everything. And it was lovely. As I was leaving the circuit, they were all gathering for their team celebration photo. So coming back to do the recording here, they were all celebrating, and the genuine joy was so nice to see from a team that's won so many times. I think, Verstappen's, is he 69, 70 wins? Anyway, he's won a lot of races, and yet so many people just sort of acting like it was the first win. I loved it.
Other things to discuss then. Kimi Antonelli's penalty. What did you make of that?
Okay, so I spent a bit too much time before this on the Red Bull side of thing, but I watched that back, and I literally the first watching of it, I don't see him move. Like, have I got that wrong? I would like to have spent more time
No.
before this to actually see it, and I'm like, wait a second, and in the room with others, they were like, did he move? And I mean, I think I heard on Sky Sports, I think Anthony Davidson was saying yes, there was a slight creep, but wow, I mean,
It's so harsh.
yeah. Uh, uh, I guess a rule's a rule, but I mean that was, there can't be any advantage gained there, can there? With that,
Now the FIA have spoken, Matt. So hold that thought. The both McLaren. Well, I've just looked at the Piastri one, but it will be both, won't it? Disqualified. Done. The thickness. Oh, this is a fantastic sentence to read out. The thickness of the plank assembly was below the permitted minimum thickness. So this is about the skid block, is it?
yeah. Just to explain what's happened, a car has to run at a certain ride height, so there's only so low the car can go. Now, the reason for that, strictest sense of it, is safety. You run the car too low, there's not enough downforce, so you're more likely to lose control and crash. So they set a level to that to be safe. So to make sure that level is ensured, there's a plank underneath the car. And you'll see when the cars drive along, the cars spark and you see sparks coming from underneath. That's fine, but there's only a certain amount of wear that can happen. Otherwise, you're too low, and that's essentially illegal. And that's what's happened here. It sounds particularly minor in some ways, but the rules are set very clearly, and they've gone below that level, which is not acceptable. And it's always a DQ in that situation. I'm just curious why it was such a long delay in that decision coming to it.
So this is really spicy then, because I'm now looking at the standings. You've got Lando on 390, and then Oscar and Max on 366, 24 points behind. 2 races to go. What's the maximum number of points available with the sprint race as well?
24 points to go, and there's fastest laps there. So suddenly a mathematically quite not impossible but improbable thing has become quite possible now. Verstappen can actually do that. Bearing in mind how much of a deficit he had to make up, and he clawed back on Piastri when he was leading. We're now in a situation where he can do it. The only caveat I would say to that is I do think McLaren will be good in the two Middle East circuits. I'm not saying I want to poo-poo the whole thing, but suddenly we've got a proper three-way title fight, which is thrilling, isn't it?
But then, from a McLaren point of view, just because you've only got a week now, this is a disaster, an absolute disaster. Like they've messed up, and it's cost them big. Like that is quite a thing to try and recover from, isn't it?
I mean, yeah. If they don't win this, how are they going to recover from this? If one of their drivers don't win this, that is a threat, and suddenly there's quite a lot of pressure because Verstappen literally had nothing to lose, and now I don't know. It makes it brilliant. What a brilliant end to what could have been quite a one-team-sided championship. We suddenly have a real thriller on our hands.
It is interesting for me as well, having just read Zach Brown's book. He talks a lot about sort of reacting, how he doesn't mind making mistakes because you learn from them. You just don't make the same mistake twice. Now, this feels like a pretty big mistake, and it is someone's fault, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it should be quite a basic thing to get right, you would think. But, they run these things, they push everything to the nth degree to get the advantage. And obviously they've made a slight misjudgment. I don't know whose fault it is. You would imagine they're not going to repeat it in Qatar or Abu Dhabi, certainly. But who knows what other mistakes might come forward now. We'll wait and see when the pressure's on them.
They're going to be feeling nervy, and I like it. Now, out in Vegas, Matt, you've spoken to one of Red Bull's strategists, Hannah Schmitz, before the race. How was she?
So, yeah, speaking to Hannah, which was great because what she was able to tell me was what the team's strategy, normally a real big secret, she was able to tell me because we weren't going to put it out till afterwards, what that was planning to do. Yuki stopping very early, Max for this one stopper. And it was fascinating talking about the different nuances and whether there could be the potential for a two-stop too. I find it really interesting, this strategy world.
On the two-stop thing, did you ask her about this talk of mandatory two stops coming in?
Yeah, exactly that. There's a push possibly for doing it in theory to spice up the racing. I don't agree with it, and you'll hear Hannah's views.
When the strategies have been interesting this year is because it's not clear which strategy you should do. So it's whenever it's a mixed race, that's interesting. So yes, two stops is more interesting than a formulaic one-stop race because then there's, I guess, an extra chance for things to happen or get mixed up. But all the races that have been one versus two stops, if you suddenly made them a two-stop, they would be a lot less interesting. So I think strategy is good when it's difficult to know what the right thing to do is and where there'll be differences of opinion and differences of approach.
Also, I need to ask you about another engineer leaving Max's side of the garage.
Yeah, so Tom Hart, who's one of Max's 4 engineers, is revealed this weekend he's leaving and he's off to Williams. Curiously, he won't be leaving straight away. He'll do another full season with the team. But what's happened is there's a merry-go-round in Formula One, but David Mart, who is the sort of engine, overlooks the power unit for Max, he's leaving and heading to Audi at the end of this season. And also Michael Manning, who does the controls like the steering wheel, the gears. He'd always announced that he was leaving at the end of the season for a new challenge. So yeah, Max, of his 4 engineers, three are leaving. So that's quite a big change.
Is it less of a problem when you've got a whole new power unit coming in anyway, so a new team might sort of make sense?
I don't know, actually, because some of these things are quite specialist knowledge. You want to keep the team together, but the problem is, I mean, I think the crux of it is they're victims of their own success. Max wins 4 championships in a row, and other teams are going to go, oh, that engineer's obviously doing well, that engineer. And so I think naturally that happens, and that's what happens in Formula One, and that's what's happening here. And these people just want to seek a new challenge, and they've all got different promotions. So it's just the way it goes.
Okay, so that's the Las Vegas Grand Prix all wrapped up. Next up on the Formula One calendar is Qatar. That is this weekend coming, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's take a little look at our predictions. So a reminder of our predictions rules. We get a point for each driver on the podium we call correctly, 2 points if you get a driver in the correct podium position, and a huge 6 points if we absolutely nail the 1, 2, 3. Over the season, we're up against each other and the audience. you, and then this AI bot. Now, hugely significant race weekend, not just because of the disqualifications, but because of what that means for our standings. Because pre-disqualifications, you'd got a 6-pointer.
I know, this is disgraceful.
I mean, I'm so happy.
I'm going to appeal. I'm going to appeal to the FIA.
I'm so happy that it's been snatched away from you. I cannot tell you.
What do I get then? How many points have I got? And how many have you got?
So you would have still got your 2 points for Verstappen winning, and then so it's Russell in second. So, and I have Verstappen in second. So I think I've got 2. Yeah, I think I've got 2 points and you've got 3.
Oh, I can't believe robbed of a 6-pointer. That's brutal.
Yeah,
brutal.
I mean, my heart bleeds. I mean, you still get a point on me, but I was I was sick as I was watching it. It's funny when you've made the predictions as you're following the race, you're thinking, I mean, I'm enjoying the race. This is great. What does it mean for the drivers' championship? But you're also thinking, I really hope that Matt doesn't get 6 points, obviously. So it's nice that that's been scuppered. And then AI bot, what did they predict? They had Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, so they get just 1 point. So bad for them. And then our audience member, Stop Go F1 on Instagram went Verstappen, Russell, Leclerc. So that gives them, I think, 4 points. This is massive for the audience. So the audience are right back in it then. So you're on 45, I'm on 42. Audience now sneaking ahead of the bot, which I really like, on 39. And the bot on 38. Ha! Okay, next race on the Formula One calendar is the Qatar Grand Prix this Sunday, 30th of November. Now, you think that the McLarens will be good on both remaining circuits, don't you?
Yes, but I think Verstappen will go well in Qatar as well. I think I've given up trying to predict. It's ridiculous. Each race where you think something's going to happen, it doesn't. Suddenly Russell has a flyer, suddenly Verstappen does, suddenly the McLarens are nowhere to be seen, suddenly they come back to the fore again. So it's quite hard to guess.
Well, we are going to guess because we're going to do our predictions. Who's your 1, 2, 3?
So I'll go Norris for the win, Verstappen second, Piastri third.
Yeah, I'm going to go pretty similar, but just for the sake of the race for the title, I'm going to have Verstappen, Norris, Piastri. Although I don't know why I'm putting Piastri in there. I think Piastri is just completely folded. I guess just because the McLaren will be good. But yeah, Verstappen, Norris, Piastri. The AI has gone Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, so it's the same 3. So again, the possibility of a 6-pointer, and then we'll select a listener. So unlucky to miss out on that, Matt. I do feel for you. We'll be selecting a listener prediction to represent you, the audience. So share your predictions on our Instagram stories or on our YouTube comments. Remember to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. Search for the Inside Track podcast or check out the show notes. And we'll be back in a week's time to review all the drama from Qatar and provide some exclusive insider insight, as always, from Team Red Bull. The Inside Track is funded and made by BBC Studios, a commercial company that's wholly owned by the BBC. It's produced and edited by John Weeks, video editing and social media by Georgina Revel, and James Cook is the executive producer.